Llegó la hora de conectarte con Jáquers, profesionales, emprendedores, innovadores, líderes, agentes de cambio. Y ahora su moderador, Javier Hernández Acosta.
So welcome to this new episode on Hackers. We are here at the Creative Hub in Tallinn, Estonia. We will have an interesting conversation with Urmas Lilleorg from Estonia, from Creative Fuel Division and other projects that we will know a little bit more. So Urmas, thanks for your time.
Thank you for inviting.
And the opportunity of sharing with us some of these ideas. Well, first of all, I look a little bit on your background, and you're a bridge and
road engineer.
Bridge and road engineer.
Yeah.
So we always ask our guests to tell us a little bit of their background, how do they grow, their interest, or develop, and how do you get into
creative businesses,
creative business orientation.
Yeah.
So
it was. I graduated from the Technical University in 1987.
Okay.
And then was the changes in Soviet Union, and I found out that there was opportunity to open private companies, and my first company I established in '89, and it was design studio. It was parallel with my kind of normal work in designing bridges.
Okay.
Parallel, but in one point I understand that it will be my kind of main focus, and I got two designers working with me, so we have three of us started.
But before getting into with all the political changes in '89, '91,
Yeah.
do you have had some sort of experience directly to the bridge and road engineering?
Yeah, I designed some bridges
Okay.
during 2 years when I was working for the governmental kind of engineering company.
Okay.
But it was like you need to choose, and if you feel the kind of opportunity, and it was in the end quite clear decision that I must take the responsibility of being entrepreneur. And so,
Okay.
Yeah. So it was.
And the entrepreneurial orientation. Do you have any background, family, or but?
What?
No, but at the time probably there was not much entrepreneurial.
Yeah, no, there was like starting from scratch, so bookkeeping, everything. But I was lucky to have good people around me, and the creative. Why I choose the design and creative? I was studying in secondary school in the beginning of '80s, the calligraphy.
Okay.
So like. It was like a special course in the latest kind of time in secondary school, and I have friends studied in art university, and I felt that I'm good in managing things.
Okay.
So and they are good in doing design and everything. So it was a good combination. I just started as a project manager, and we saw that it's a good combination, and we can make good money.
Sometimes people think that engineers choose structure and arts and creativity is to lose, but then there is a normal
combination. Always the opposites are good to mix. So I was.
So what we were talking about the transition with the Soviet Union, the opening of more private business and the interest in design and advertising and other aspects. So can you mention a little bit of those experiences of starting to work in creative business and processes?
Yes, because it was many other new companies, small companies were started, And we found that there is a need for corporate identity, business cards, and all these kind of things that you need to have when you have a private entrepreneur. And that was the kind of first 2-3 years, making logos, designs, some interesting. There was also interesting product designs, but it was very occasionally we didn't see this kind of opportunity, but for the long term. But yes, mainly graphical design was the first, and some exhibition designs, and the first kind of when the final decision was when we were asked to make an offer for designing a 150 years kind of exhibition for one big company, and we sat together with two of my designers and drinking beer and then thinking, okay, what we should ask for this work, and the artists are very kind of crazy, and my salary at this time was 150 rubles. And the guys said that, but let's ask 40,000 rubles for this work. And I said, why not? And we went and presented the idea with the price quote, and they said, no problem. so then was the final decision that this is a job for me, and so I stayed in the creative business from this moment.
So now, then at some point you founded Division as a...
Yeah, it was 92 when I have my main partner, Rein Pikand. He studied in Helsinki industrial design, and it was very tough times in Finland, kind of crisis. And he lost his job in one design studio and went back to Tallinn, and we just met, and another kind of good combination. And he had experience in Finland, but is more kind of experienced in entrepreneurship and everything. So the market was open for many years there. So he bring the knowledge of advertising. So where we were moving from the design to the more like advertising and making brands and kind of communication. So it was then started. And
now that company is 25, 26 years old.
Yes, and we still have the main owners and our daily hands-on.
Great. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, let's talk a little bit about Creative Fuel.
En breve regresamos con Jáquers, emprendimiento, innovación, marcando la diferencia. Regresamos a Jáquers, profesionales del emprendimiento y la innovación.
Welcome back to Jáquers, here with Urmas, here in Tallinn, Estonia. Urmas, we were talking about Division, but right now we're here at the Creative Hub in Tallinn, an old industrial place that used to be a power plant. How big, how many meters is the whole?
The whole building is something like 10,000 square meters.
Okay, so
it's divided like 6,500 is public, kind of concert halls, conference halls, and the rest is dedicated to the creative agencies and like office space.
So I would like you to explain us a little bit about Creative Fuel, because I believe this is a great example of collective entrepreneurship, collaboration, and collective and open innovation in some way. So what is Creative Fuel?
Creative Fuel is a quite unique initiative of four independent agencies. There is some connection between like ownership background is the same in three of them, but we understood in one time that we are small separately, and we can do some projects what is really needed as a kind of individually or separately. And we started to think that what we can do together to enter new markets like export markets and creating a good place for the talents, that we have kind of good hires. And because Estonia is known as a startup country, and if you have in Estonia, where we have 1.2 million people, and there is a TransferWise, there is a Skype, and you know they can pay a lot of money for the talents. And we thought that how we can kind of compete, not with money-wise, but kind of the whole idea-wise. And then we started to look a special place for these 4 agencies. And this, where we finally landed, it was the third one. So there was one manor outside of Tallinn, and there was another place close to this one, but I think we were lucky to finally land here. It was first time when we visit here. It was in Christmas time 2014. It was in middle of construction. We have very dark times in the winter time, so it was very difficult to understand what it will be in the end. And I have the engineering background, and I kind of imagined that how it will be in the end. But we decided that we were all in with this project, and we hired 5 excellent architects to find out how we fit to this building, because it's not an office building. And the kind of uniqueness was that we have out of kind of 2,500 square meters, 700 square meters common spaces where we can share the different, there are eating places for agency staff and terraces, and we are sharing the meeting rooms, and so this is kind of the idea that mixing different cultures of companies, and it will be much more interesting for the talents to be there here.
So the 4 companies are?
The 4 companies are ADM Interactive. It's the biggest digital marketing agency in Estonia. Then it's H. McCann. It's the oldest creative agency in Estonia. Division is another creative agency, a bit differently positioned, like H. McCann. And the next is the 4th one, which is a 5 years old startup now acting in the global markets. So it's a kind of interesting combination. So, and yeah, that's a kind of core team, core together. When we started, there was 130 people. But now we have more than 200. So we are growing. The concept is working.
It's working. The concept is working. So some people will think that that these companies compete with each other, but at the end, I think that collaborating in the same physical space, open spaces, that in some way contributes to creativity and
Estonia is a very small market, so the idea is to find together new markets, new services, new ideas, new innovation, and we established together kind of startup lab called Startup Elevator.
Okay.
And the idea was really give our talents to, if they have ideas to kind of innovate in media tech or advertising technology or wherever related to the design or something innovation related to design, so we can not make them to spin out of our kind of environment, but we allow them to see the idea with us together and growing.
So this elevator startup. It's an interesting project because it's a way you are First, I see it as a contribution to the ecosystem, for the ecosystem to grow.
Yeah.
You're investing time, resources, knowledge, even money, but at the same time, it is a way of growing.
Yeah.
It's kind of a growth strategy for the conglomerate, so you can see what's going on out there, having access to innovations.
Yes, that's the kind of thought that's the kind of that what we hoped that will happen if we do things together. So and now we had 2 years program financed with a government funding, and we have 2 years program. 1 year is already done, so we have a batch 12 incumbents. There is more information on the site. So and we are now starting in November the second one, and with more wiser choices, and it was very interesting case. We have many mentors in-house, and we invited many good guys from US, from Spain, from Portugal, from different places. And we have a kind of partner in Hamburg, in Germany, who can have a first choice to pick up some incubators to their kind of accelerator. So it's interesting, and everything is real. We didn't know how does it happening, or is it going to work, and now it's real.
Great, excellent initiative. Let's take a short break and let's talk a little bit about Estonia.
En breve regresamos con Jáquers, emprendimiento, innovación, marcando la diferencia. Regresamos a Jáquers, profesionales del emprendimiento y la innovación.
Well, we're back here, and one of the most interesting things for me in this trip, for the first time in Estonia, is that obviously every country is different. Every country has different conditions. But I remember a couple of years ago some author write a book looking for countries that we should see in Puerto Rico as models, because they have been part of some transitions, some colonial transitions, some similarities in terms of geography. So Puerto Rico is an island, it's 3.3 million population, colony of the United States, so tension in terms of political relations. And then you have Estonia, which is 1.2 or 3 million people in a frontier with Russia, but that makes a lot of conflicts. It's not an island, but at some point...
Kind of island.
It is, you know.
Between West and East, yes.
Yeah, and then I would like to try for you to share some thoughts on... Obviously, Estonia is a big reference worldwide in terms of startup culture and in terms of tech, also.
E-services,
e-government. So I would like to share some thoughts of the transition and the development of that startup culture. What do you think about that?
I think it's there is no other alternatives because in such a situation and where we started in the end of 80s, it was, there was nothing. It was scratch, and it was very fortunate that we still had kind of entrepreneurial kind of attitude, and it was 90s were kind of crazy growth, and it never happened again, but I saw it, and it's crazy. But yes, we didn't have a banking system, so we went ready to the kind of internet banking.
Oh, okay.
So we kind of...
You skipped?
We skipped some check writing, and that's kind of, there was no alternative, because you are limited resources. You need to be clever and innovative to create services. If you have 1.3 million kind of citizens, and you need to have the army, the government, you can't do it like with a power. You need to do it with the clever decisions.
Right.
So the government and everything comes from this kind of, from the soil. You don't have this, American capital, and so this is And we were lucky to have right people from the beginning to run, and we're quite open, and the market is always open. It's not like kind of protected. It's good and bad to do this, but yeah, and sometimes we were lucky and
so
have this.
It's very interesting because I have talked to a few people, and then the global orientation of everything. You know, if you're doing to start a business, you know, you cannot think only in the local market because it's a very small local market. So the global orientation.
That's behind the startup thinking, I think, because you can't. It doesn't make sense to make any plans connected to the home market. There is no. Usually, and maybe beer, but rest, if you want to grow, and then it's the only way to look the export and global.
What do you think about education in terms of early stages, university? What role do you think that?
It's very important. It's very important, and we have excellent results. Kind of, we are top. One of the best scoring in mathematics, and so it's the parents understand that the education is so important that you need to have good English, good kind of base, kind of these mathematics and chemistry and everything. So this is I think one thing behind the success, or kind of the attitude, and now many of youngsters are already had opportunity to study abroad, and they understand that there is a huge competition, and they are with a very right attitude. So we are lucky with hiring some of these new talents for the agencies. So I think we are open. We need to find solution that fits for this size and place, and that's kind of We try to innovate the governance of countries. So.
That was my next question. You know, the government always have a role. You know. What should be the role of the government based on your experience here? The good things and the bad things, because you have like even the Soviet experience. So what should be the role of the government in this startup? And
I think what is the discussion at the moment, that there is a physical services you can't change, like firemen and policemen, and but the rest of the services that need to be open in the internet, so you can do your stuff without any kind of bureaucracy, and it's transparent, and so it allows to make the kind of governance as small as possible. So because we need people in the kind of entrepreneurial kind of side, so it's the most productive part of the.
And then bureaucracy costs a lot of money.
It's and we can't allow it.
Right.
So it's innovating on the service side, and we are doing quite well, and then kind of optimize the rest of the services so we can, survive. It's really costly to have a country.
Right. I have one last question, and most of our audience are students interested in being entrepreneurial in any discipline, and sometimes we are encouraging students to combine disciplines, and I think you're an interesting case of two sometimes considered opposite backgrounds or experiences. But again, what could be an advice for students, for young entrepreneurs, creative professionals out there who want to perform and to work from their
I think
talent?
The most valuable position in society is to be entrepreneur. And if you are successful, you have good feelings yourself, and you can, let's say, hire people, make others people kind of families doing well, and I think it's the most important, and it's not hard. Sometimes it's hard, but it's the results are very enjoyable. So I think it's yeah. And there is different phases, but good and bad times. But you need to keep looking and be curious, and I enjoy it because every day is different. It's the amazing kind of side of this being entrepreneur.
Great. Well, Urmas, thank you very much for your time. I think it's been an interesting conversation and will enrich our discussion in Puerto Rico. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias por habernos acompañado en Jáquers. La próxima semana los esperamos en un espacio en donde seguiremos en contacto con los profesionales que dejan su huella a través del emprendimiento y la innovación.